If you have an LLC and you're looking for a business line of credit from American Express, this is a review that I really want you to pay attention to. So let's first talk about the pros and cons of this particular line of credit. What happens here is that about 2 years ago, when the COVID happened, and actually Cabbage was bought over by American Express, and what American Express did was they rebranded the Cabbage line of credit into American Express line of credit. So in today's conversation, we want to see how, as an LLC, you can benefit from this line of credit to sort of finance your operations, to take care of business, literally, okay, to have access to an additional additional source of funding. So here are the pros and cons. So the pros: we have quick online application process. You can receive funds between 1 to 3 business days. This is really good. There are no prepayment penalties. Everything happens online. It takes about 5 minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes. Just make sure you have your paperwork ready, because they will ask you some specific questions about your LLC. Well, what about the cons here? Well, each draw from the credit line is considered a separate installment loan, and this can create problems for your LLC in terms of liquidity planning, okay? And American Express has a confusing fee structure. And what happened here is that when Cabbage was actually running this line of credit, things were pretty clear and transparent. And as soon as they got bought over and they actually put things under the Amex umbrella, the fee structure became a little confusing, in our view. And this LLC business line of credit requires a personal guarantee. So this could be a detriment, because, hey, listen, your personal assets are not off the hook. Okay, so when you think about this American Express business line of credit for your LLC, just focus on the fact that you can apply online between 3 to 10 minutes. Okay, you have a decision ASAP, and you have a series of I would say a series of actions from American Express that can actually guarantee that you will be approved real quick. The only thing is they don't approve you for a long period, so the maximum they can approve you for is 18 months. Okay, so they have 6, 12, or 18 months. So you have to see which one works for you. Let's talk about suitability. Okay, so but by the way, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. So when we talk about suitability, the question is, does this LLC business line of credit from American Express suit your specific LLC, depending on your state of organization, your state of formation, the sector you're in, your current liquidity situation. Okay, now American Express business line of credit is it's really interesting. I mean, they don't actually they haven't done anything. When Amex bought over Cabbage, they did not do anything. They just kept the product as it is. Okay, the only thing is now you have the backing of a stellar institution such as Amex. Okay, and so basically you can borrow up to $250,000. In some geographies, they will limit the line of credit to $150,000. Okay, so that's the band I want you to think about: $150,000 to $250,000. And if you as an LLC member, if you have a credit score like 600 to 640 minimum, you could qualify for this line of credit. Amex will ask you for stuff like your financial statements, your LLC financial statements, your LLC business plan. Just make sure you have an LLC business plan. They don't need like 40 pages or 50 pages of financial literature or business literature. They just want to have a recap of your business. Okay, so if your LLC needs fast funding, if you need additional funding for short-term purposes, for short-term expenses, this could be a great fit for you, because remember, the maximum repayment window here is 18 months. So it goes to, you have 6 months, 12 months, and 18 months. So this is really something that's important. So money, 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 money. How much does your LLC need right now? Number one. Number two, what do you need the cash for? What do you need to finance with the cash? Do you want to expand your LLC? Do you need to buy extra inventory? Do you want to lock in some good rates from a vendor who sells you usually during the holiday season? What do you need the cash for? You need to actually have a clear idea about the use of line proceeds, because Amex is going to ask you. That's the very first question they're going to ask you. Let me give you more details about this LLC business line of credit from American Express. Okay, so by the way, I'm just quickly giving you a review. This is today's topic. I'm giving you a review of this line of credit product from American Express. Okay, so when we talk about details, we're talking about a line of credit that goes from $2,000 all the way to $250,000. The repayment term 6 to 18 months. And in terms of the estimated monthly fee range, you are looking at 2% to 9% for a 6-month line of credit, 4.5% to 18% for 12-month lines of credit, and 6.75% to 27% for 18 months line of credit. So you can see here that the longer the repayment window, the higher the APR is for your LLC, because Amex is thinking about an additional risk. The longer you have if you have a long repayment window, there is an extra layer of risk, which makes sense. Okay, now so $2,000 to $250,000, and just remember that each repayment term has a specific minimum borrowing amount. So $500 is the minimum draw for a 6-month term. $10,000 is the minimum for a 12-month term, and $20,000 is the minimum draw for an 18-month term. So it's worth noting that each withdrawal from your credit line is treated as a separate installment loan. This is where we're just talking to you about the fact that the fee structure can be a little confusing. I don't know why, we don't know why Amex has chosen to do it this way, but they must have their own reasons, okay? And one thing I need to say here is that American Express business lines of credit for LLCs, their lines of credit come with no prepayment penalties. So big decision time, boss. Let me ask you a question. Big decision time. Based on the amount of money that you told me that you needed, like when I asked you a few minutes ago, you said how much you need, and I asked you how much you need and what you need it for. Do you still think this is interesting for you? Because remember, they actually treat each time you withdraw from this line of credit, they treat it as a separate installment loan. Does this make sense for you? And based on the APR that I just gave you, do you really believe that this is something that you could actually put into your budget? Think about that. I want to talk to you about the requirements of this business line of credit from American Express, so you have a clear idea whether or not this is something that your LLC might want to embark on. Okay, so American Express has a pretty clear requirements in terms of their LLC business line of credit. So they want your LLC to have a minimum annual revenue of $36,000. So we're talking about what? We're talking about $3,000 annual revenue, not annual revenue, $3,000 monthly revenue. So this is gross. Okay, this is gross. Minimum time in business for your LLC, 12 months. And the minimum credit score for the LLC founder or the LLC main member, the primary member, 600 to 640. And so you can see that it's not really complicated. I mean, 3,000 is pretty straightforward. 3,000 is really, I would say, is really accessible for a long list of LLCs in this country. Because you see, the thing is that American Express really wanted to penetrate this business line of credit market. That's why they lowered their requirements, okay? Because back in the days, their requirements were a little higher when Cabbage was running the show. So as soon as American Express bought over the firm, they actually rebranded everything. And you need to understand that your credit score and history will be one of the deciding factors for the repayment term available to you. So, and the maximum amount, as a matter of fact, that you can borrow. Okay, so think about that. And I also want to say that a personal guarantee will be required for your American Express business line of credit for your LLC. I don't care if you have a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC, you still need to sign a personal guarantee. The only way you can do this with EIN only is if you have a long-standing relationship with American Express, you have an account with American Express Bank, National Bank, okay, and you have like a good relationship with them, that they can actually do they can do an exception. So here is the approach I want you to follow right now. You want to contact American Express. you want to start a conversation with them, do not apply for this product online. I know it's pretty tempting to apply online, but don't do it. Don't apply online. You want to contact them. You want to ask all the information. You want to watch this show first, and based on the knowledge you have, you want to contact American Express and start a conversation. Let's talk about the paperwork you need to gather if you want to qualify for this LLC business line of credit from American Express. By the way, this is the topic of today's conversation. Okay, so this is a review of an LLC business line of credit from American Express. And so the required documents are, you do have a variety of documents depending on your geography, depending on where you're applying from. So they will usually ask you for business bank account statements for the last 3 months. Sometimes they will ask you for 6 months if you are applying for a larger line of credit. They will ask you for a name and address of the business. And by the way, I just want to say that if you have an LLC and you want to apply for a business line of credit in general, though, or a business loan or business credit card for that matter, it's just a lot better if you are running your LLC from home. It's just a lot better to have a separate address so that you can preserve your privacy. This is just something I wanted to say because we have been seeing this a lot. A lot of viewers are asking us questions. So the required documents, business and the name and address of the business. They want to have also the name and home address of the LLC owner or the LLC primary member. They will ask you the LLC industry, so the kind of industry you're in, and they will ask your EIN, your LLC business tax ID number. They will ask you for the tax returns of the LLC for the last 3 years. So that means you will have to provide your Form 1065 for the last 3 years, as well as all schedules K1. This is really important. And they will also want to see the personal tax returns of the primary member, of the primary LLC member. So this will be the Form 1040 for the last 3 years also. Okay, the last 3 years. This is important. In addition to that, you will need to provide a business plan. And again, as I said earlier, you don't have to write a whole Bible or write a whole Quran or whatever. No, just write like 10, 20 pages, okay, that explains what your LLC does and how it makes money. And also, you want to attach to a business plan your LLC financial statements, okay, just to kind of give an idea of where you stand right now. So if you have been watching this show for the last 10 minutes and you just don't like, the business model that Amex has in terms of their line of credit, there are alternatives. There are other players out there that you could actually try to, maybe try to see if they would have better terms for you. So in today's conversation, what I want to do is I want to compare and contrast American Express business line of credit for your LLC versus what you could get from Blue Vine, for example, and On Deck. So those are two players that we have been reviewing for the last 10 years. Blue Vine is pretty good. On Deck is really good also. So when we talk about minimum credit score, whereas Amex is asking you for 640, Blue Vine and On Deck are asking you like 600 and 625. So Amex will ask you 600 to 600. So Amex, are talking about 600 to 640. Blue Vine, they're asking you 600 to 625. Same thing for On Deck. Okay. In terms of the loan product offered, Amex will offer you a business line of credit. The same thing for Blue Vine. Whereas On Deck, in addition to a business line of credit, they also can offer you a short-term business loan for your LLC. So there is an added plus there. Time to funding. For Amex, it takes about 1 to 3 business days. For Blue Vine, you were looking at 1 to 3 days or within hours. If you want to get the cash real quick, they will actually charge you a $15 wire fee. And for On Deck, you can receive funds the same business day. What about starting interest rates? Well, this is where things are a little complicated when it comes to Amex, because you have 2 to 9% for 6 months lines of credit, 4.5% to 18% for 12-month lines of credit, and you have 6.75 to 27% for 18 months lines of credit. For Blue Vine, things are very, very, very simple. 6.20% simple interest based on a 26-week repayment term. That's it. For On Deck, things are the fixed structure is also simple. 29.99 APR, 29.9% APR. That's it. What about the maximum loan amount? For Amex, $250,000. Same thing for Blue Vine. For On Deck, for a business line of credit is $100,000. For the short-term loan, $250,000. In terms of the line of credit minimum annual revenue, for Amex, $36,000. You can see that's really, really, really low. For Blue Vine, you are looking at $120,000. For On Deck, $100,000. So you can see here the delta here is huge. That's just huge. While Amex is asking you to have 36 grand, Blue Vine is asking you like where Amex is asking you 3 grand per month, Blue Vine is asking you 10 grand a month, and On Deck about 9 grand a month. So about 8 grand a month. So you can see where the which one works for you. So before closing today's conversation, I want to dig a little deeper. I just showed you the so should you go with Amex versus Blue Vine, or should you go with Amex versus On Deck? What really does work for you? Well, it really depends on where your LLC is currently at in its development stage, in its operational stage. Okay, first thing first, how much revenue does your LLC generate every month? You saw the numbers. Amex 3,000, Blue Vine 10,000, On Deck 8,500. So where are you at right now in terms of your revenue? Because this will actually determine whether or not you go with Amex or Blue Vine or On Deck. That's number one. Number two, what is the maximum loan size, the maximum line of credit that you want to have? They all are giving you $250,000 except On Deck. With On Deck, the maximum is $100,000. So if you choose to go with On Deck, just keep in mind that the maximum you could apply for is $100,000. But there is an added benefit with On Deck. On Deck actually also has a short-term business loan that you could qualify for your LLC, which is something that Amex doesn't have and Blue Vine doesn't have. Okay, but are you comfortable with the complicated fee structure that Amex has for their business line of credit? Or would you rather have the very simple, straightforward, very transparent fee structure that Blue Vine has? What about On Deck? So you got to think about that, whatever works for you. Okay, and one thing I also want to say here is that you need to ask yourself, what is your minimum credit score? Do you qualify? You saw the numbers, 600 to 640. Okay, for Amex, 600 to 625. For Blue Vine, same thing for On Deck. Where are you at in terms of your credit score? Okay, so those are really important elements. And one thing you also need to understand here is that when we talk about a Blue Vine line of credit, they want you to be in business for a minimum of only 6 months. So it's a lot easier to qualify for a Blue Vine line of credit than it is to qualify for an American Express business line of credit. The only problem is, do you have, can you generate $10,000 a month in revenue? Okay, On Deck also offers short-term loans. So both On Deck products have a starting APR of $29.99, which is really high, but again, it is what it is. So big decision time, boss. Which one is more appealing to you? On Deck, Blue Vine, or American Express? Up to you to decide. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I was just quickly doing an LLC business line of credit from American Express review for you. We looked at the pros and cons, the suitability, the details, the requirements, the paperwork needed, and the alternatives, specifically Blue Vine and On Deck. I will see you next time. God bless you. And until then, remember, stay marvelous.